Hi there. Today I am reflecting on how it went to make a unit plan, which is something I've had some experience doing. In AP World History, making a unit plan starts with looking at the AP course curriculum, which I have here. And it's really a combination of skills and content. And it took me a while to understand how important it was to blend both of those things together when I'm thinking about making a unit. Um, and the first thing I need to know when I'm making a unit is using kind of the backwards planning. Um, what are the big picture themes? And the AP World History curriculum does a nice job of helping us understand that and laying those out in their what they call key concepts. Um, so if I look for specific key concepts, for example, I'm scrolling down to some of the key concepts we're teaching this quarter, but you can see it's a 233-page document that I've had to digest pretty carefully in order to be able to think about how units and individual lessons should be unpacked. But here's an example of a key concept that we taught back in September, that states and empires increased in size and contacts between regions intensified. So it's a pretty vague concept. So I have to use the same skills that we learned in this module, how to unpack this concept, what skills are needed to be able to interpret and understand all the different components of this key concept. So in terms of the content, the AP outlines very clearly what the content is that our students need to know for the exam. Then my job is also to translate this content into lessons. So what's a great, effective way to teach the idea that monotheism with Judaism further developed with the codification of Hebrew scriptures, etc., etc. So that's the challenge of coming up with unit plans for us. We usually build unit plans around key concepts, which I demonstrated in my materials this unit and module. And overall, I think the key to unit planning and lesson planning is that backwards process. So looking at the key concept, coming up with a unit, how to teach a key concept broadly, and then breaking that unit up into individual lessons. I tried to do that. I have an example here I can bring up. So this is a unit calendar that we just taught. So the unit 1 was called the World Wars for quarter 3. And you can see that I tried to break down each lesson pretty carefully. So it's a very conscientious, careful process. Once I've come up with the unit, and then I needed to break down how I was going to cover all the key concepts required in the AP curriculum within this 2-week unit. The other key is skill building, because the AP exam requires students to take a very difficult, multi-faceted test. So we're always thinking about how we're going to build in historical thinking skills. So in this case, these are the HCS, causation, or comparison, contextualization. So while we're building lessons, we're also thinking about what kind of formative assessments and summative assessments we need that will help our students build those skills. So how to write an essay, how to take a difficult multiple choice test, how to write short answer questions. So there's always something built into the lesson that's related to skills and content. In terms of revisions, I think the units that I've been developing are pretty thorough in terms of their 21st century skills and communication, collaboration, critical thinking. And we've done a nice job of weaving those skills into most of our individual lessons. I love the idea of incorporating stronger hooks that tie more multicultural perspectives or cultural awareness. AP World History is a course that lends itself to cross-cultural learning, but this module reminded me that it would be very helpful to make that more explicit in my lessons, to really build in some kind of introduction to some of the cultures that from which the histories we're learning come from. So if we're studying India, to build in a little bit more about Indian culture and think about how we interact with South Asians and Indians and Pakistani and Bangladeshi here in Boston, where we see our crossovers. In terms of revisions, I think when I go back, it's often about when I look back at the unit or the lessons, I revise it often for pacing. So what things did I spend too much time on that weren't essential, where I missed having time on things that were essential. And also, I think sometimes it's having to do with groupings or revisions that take more careful consideration of my English learners or my individual needs students. So how can I differentiate? How can I enhance their access to the content? Overall, I think the planning process of backwards design, starting from unpacking key concepts from the AP curriculum to developing unit plans, and then from the unit plans developing individual lessons, is an essential skill that I've been trying to develop, and this unit helped reinforce those skills for me and help me understand the steps I need to take to do that. Yeah, I think that's about all I have to say. Thanks for an interesting module, and I hope all is well.